The age-old question everybody wants to know. How do I appreciate my partner and give without over-giving? What's the line? What's the balance? Everybody really wants to know that. I mean, it's a really common thing, and I think when I think back to my first ever queer relationship, I remember giving a lot. And I remember showing up and proving myself and like over-giving with gifts and, words and feeling it had to be this fairy tale all the time. And I just wanted to make sure that I kept that relationship. But now that I think back on it, I know that so much of that was carried in from how I lived my entire life. I grew up in a religious environment. I grew up in spaces where I tried to be this perfect person that, gave love to everybody, that put myself last. And so then when I got into relationships, this obviously carried in, but I started to get a little resentful because maybe my partner wasn't giving me the same thing back. Maybe it wasn't what I had hoped for. Maybe I was getting my expectations weren't being met, and it just turned into this cycle of me overgiving and not understanding why I wasn't receiving that back. And I think now, from a different place, I know that I had to align myself with my own expectations and my own boundaries for that and really check in and see what felt good to me. But Dani, how do you feel like you've learned that balance of, hey, I want to show appreciation. I want to make sure that I'm being supportive. I want to make sure I'm being loving, but also, from where you came from, making sure that you're feeling good as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to note here that growing up, I was a very, very, very big people pleaser. I would do anything and everything to get approval, appreciation from other people. And so what that would mean is I would cross my own boundaries. I'd go out of my way to do everything for everybody else. And genuinely, it didn't work out for me. Not once. It just led to me constantly being resentful about how I also didn't get any of my needs met because I also wasn't asking for anything. I was just hoping that people would see that I was doing all these great things for them and show me that same thing back. And I think after thousands and thousands of times of just having such low self-worth and expecting other people to give the same back, I realized that I was never going to feel good because my intention was always just to get approval in these different acts. And so I think intention is also a really big part of this whole entire thing, because even if I didn't verbally ask for anything in return, there was something missing inside of myself that I was always hoping that people would give, and it was approval, love, affection, appreciation, whatever it is. And so I think that the turning point for me was knowing that a healthy relationship would never come if I'm constantly overgiving, not speaking up, feeling badly about it, and then just continuing the same exact pattern over and over again. And so what I learned, number one, is how to appreciate myself so I don't have to feel like I need to give to get approval or to get love. And then I started to understand that it's okay not to constantly be doing everything for everybody else, and they're capable of doing things for themselves. And you don't have to push your own limits just to get other people to like you. I don't care if it's a romantic relationship, a platonic relationship, whatever it is. You don't have to constantly go out of your way, but it is a great thing when you are not expecting anything in return, even approval, even love.
Yeah. So really what I heard so clearly through that was it's about the intention. Mm-hmm. And one of my great friends gave me this analogy, and I love it so much. If two people are standing on, a rope, let's just say they're holding a rope, one's on one side and one's on the other. If one of the partners walks in and is holding that rope all the way in the middle, it doesn't really give room for that rope to be tight and for both people to hold it on both sides. And again, this is only applying in the monogamous sense right now because ropes have two ends. We could add more ends in there, same thing, right? and kind of tie it in the middle. But for this example, imagine, right, you're just walking in all the time and you're holding this rope from the inside, that middle piece, middle part, and it's not giving that partner room to, you know, meet you halfway and also show up in that. And so one, checking in and going, am I like really showing up in this way of giving so much because I'm afraid that, you know, they're going to leave? Am I afraid that I'm not, you know, good enough, whatever it is? And checking in with that intention, because there's been many times where I've went above and beyond to show you how much I care, and it came from a really great place. And it came from this place of like, I want you to feel so loved and cared for, and I didn't walk away from that feeling resentful that like I'm not getting the same thing in return. And I think that's another thing to talk about as well, is that like relationships aren't all 50-50.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's, you know, the opposite. Sometimes it's, you know, one partner's giving a little bit more. And that's okay. And I think when we get in this mindset that it has to be 50-50 all the time, that's also something to look at.
But it also can't be 100 and 0, which is usually what a lot of the people coming to us are doing. They're giving absolutely everything to somebody else, and they're not receiving anything in return. And again, it's like, it's never going to be equal, but reciprocated relationships help, you know, the relationship grow. It encourages that appreciation instead of feeling resentful because somebody isn't, you know, there for you like you're there for them.
You, in this moment right now, think about it in your own life. And I really want you to see yourself in a relationship when you are giving. Like, think about one of your favorite things to give in love and support in relationship. What is one of your favorite things to give? And then check in and say, what is my intention behind giving this? Is it because I want something in return? Is it because I want to feel better about myself? Or is it because I really care and deeply want to support and love this person? And why is it that I'm showing up? Like, to be able to question and put your little investigator hat on and understand a little bit more about who you are is one of the greatest gifts of all time. Seriously, it is. And it's so great because it shows us so much about what it is that we need and so much about what it is that we want. And when you have that ability to check in with yourself and do that, it's a game changer. Your relationships are going to get so much better. And I've seen in our relationship, you know, it has gotten so much better because we're not doing things just because we feel like we have to do it because you're going to leave if I don't do it. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at her and I'm understanding her as a whole human, and I'm going, I love you. I care about you, and I want to show you that. So, hey, here's something I planned for us. Or I know this really is important to you. Hey, invite your friends over. Let's have a big get together. Oh, you want to go camping? All right, let's invite everybody. Let's go camping, right? Whatever it is that's meaningful, and doing it from my heart instead of doing it out of, I have to do this because she wants to. Because it's
rooted out of fear.
Yeah, and like, she'll leave me if I don't. No, I'm coming from this heart-centered place of, I want to show up for you. Let me give like an actual example, right? Mm-hmm. I could think back, honestly, I feel like years ago, this maybe would have been a resentful version of me. But, you know, Dani really loves being with other people. And I could say that I'm very outgoing with others, but I'm also a person that likes to get up at my own time. I like to, you know, do my own thing. So having people over and stuff like that, maybe not so much my thing. And Dani could totally have like everybody over, stay as long as you want, whatever that looks like. She loves that. She loves being with people. So, for example, going on a camping trip years ago for me would have been like, oh gosh, I'm out of control. I feel like things aren't in my control. I can't wake up at the time I want. I can't leave at the time I want, you know, whatever it is. But now it's like I understand so much more about who Dani is and what she needs. And I love that about her. I love that she's different than me in that way, that I'm able to support her, you know, fun in that way and what she likes. And I've actually learned by getting to know more of her to let go of control a little bit more and actually enjoy myself. I mean, you've seen a very different version of me with having people in my life and just being more vulnerable. That's all vulnerability really is what it was, running away from that. But it's shown me by you know, being able to speak about what it is that you need and me to appreciate that, for me to actually love it too. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some really cool things when we both speak up that we're able to understand and appreciate each other so much more.
Well, I think also the funny part about that is I never grew up camping. And so the add this in too. The great part is that Keely really hasn't gone camping and has
Since
done
I moved from Colorado.
Yeah, has done the things that she's really loved. And so the way to compromise for us is like because I love Friends and she loves camping, it's like figuring out how we can give to each other in the ways that are important to each other and do the things that we both love. So it's reciprocated in whatever way feels really good and aligned for the both of us.
Yeah, that's probably why I'm enjoying it so much, is that it is that piece of me and it's that piece of you coming together. And we're able to, that's such a perfect example. Wow. I didn't actually know we were going to talk about that.
I think the whole thing is like, when you can appreciate and give back to your partner, not out of fear, just because you have the capacity to give and you're not crossing your own boundaries, that's when things can feel easy and good and clear. But when you're still a people pleaser, when you're still struggling to understand your worth, your boundaries, and you're still attracting people that are not willing to give you what it is that you need, these relationships can be very, very difficult. And so what is required of you is to create that capacity within yourself to understand what it is that you need, to give yourself that validation so that regardless if somebody is going to stay with you or not, you know that you are, doing whatever it is that you want to do without overgiving in a way just because you're looking for that approval. You're looking for that validation from somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this was such a great conversation, and I genuinely really appreciate your perspective and the way that you see things too, because I wasn't even seeing that added layer of like how we've compromised and understood each other and appreciated each other out of love, not fear.
Yeah, and again, just for another quick example, like in my past relationships before, when I hadn't broken these patterns of being a people pleaser, I had found myself constantly waiting around for other people to choose me and, being available constantly and just having it be a one-way street. And I think it was showing me that I didn't care about myself. I was just on everybody's call whenever they were going to choose me, whenever they were ready for me. And I think the difference here is not just that we are able to give to each other, but we understand ourselves and what it is that we need so that we're not overgiving out of these different fears, and we're able to just show up because we want to make the relationship grow. And that's it.
I love that so much. I hope that you took something away from this conversation and you can apply it in your own life and look at the compromise. There's a difference, and maybe do some research on your own. Like, what is the difference between compromise and sacrifice? Those are really important things to know in your relationship. There's so much wisdom that you have, for real. Like, listening to you talk and hearing you say so many great things about like what you've learned and from your experience, and to go from people pleasing to someone that really stands up for what they need in a respectful and loving and kind way is really admirable. And I think you're just such a great example to look at for that, because I've learned from you as well how to do that in our relationship. So I really loved this episode. I loved connecting with all of you and speaking into this topic, because I think it needs to be spoken about. So I'm glad we got to touch on it today. And again, I hope you took something powerful away. If you did, I'd love for you to send us a message on Instagram. Let us know. If you're looking for more ways to get involved with us, to get support, the only way that we're currently supporting people, and the best way, is in the Queer Happiness Collective. We go in there, we are in there once a month, and really answering your questions live and giving you that support around these topics. But the cool thing is that you can ask your personal questions. You can send them in ahead of time. You can ask them live to our face on Zoom, and really get into the nitty gritty of what it is that you're experiencing in your relationships, what you're experiencing as a queer adult. We have experience from so many different topics, from people pleasing to growing up in religion and navigating that transition, family relationships, personal relationships, co-workers, all the things. And again, romantic relationships is our specialty. So I think what we do that's so different than what most mental health care people do is that really what it looks like to work with us is such a holistic approach. We're always looking at you from a whole person, looking at your queer identity and how that plays a role in how you respond in your relationships. And after working with thousands of queer adults, We'll have our book coming out soon on all the research that we've done and the methods that we've created to create these healthier relationships. But also just having this membership as a place for you to come to learn. There's so many resources in there we've packed for you to grow and learn so much more. And last but not least, we just launched our LGBTQ plus conversation cards. They are absolutely amazing to deepen relationships, to create better communication, to understand each other better, and to really hear each other and see each other for who you are. So that is all that we have today, but thank you so much for being here, for listening, for tuning in, and just being a part of the conversation. It is such a beautiful day. I hope you have a great one, and thank you so much. We'll see you very, very soon.